Canada put South Africa under late pressure, and Stephen Eustaquio changed everything. Do you see what just shifted? Davies reacts. South Korea lose a coach, and Brazil need Cunha against Japan. Tablo Sports starts with the stoppage-time goal that pushed Canada into the last 16. We start with the host nation's surge, because this is not just a nice Canadian night. It is a World Cup result with weight, pressure, and a late goal that changed the bracket conversation. Canada reached last 16 after Stephen Eustaquio's stoppage-time winner against South Africa. The easy version is to call this a feel-good host story and move on, but that misses the sharper edge. Canada did not just enjoy a moment, they turned stoppage time into qualification for the last 16. South Africa were left with the damage of a 1-0 defeat, and that consequence is what gives the celebration its bite. Canada beat South Africa 1-0, and Stephen Eustaquio delivered the decisive punch in stoppage time. That detail matters. A late winner is not just a goal on the timeline, it changes the entire emotional meaning of the match. Canada were heading toward frustration, toward questions, for the kind of home tournament tension that can make every misplaced pass feel like a national referendum. Then Eustaquio arrived, and suddenly the co-hosts were the first team to book a place in the last 16. So let us be clear on this. The reporting supports Canada reaching the last 16, but it does not establish this as a knockout match. That distinction matters because World Cup language can get sloppy very quickly when the drama is this good. This was Canada securing advancement with a stoppage-time winner against South Africa, not some already confirmed round of 32 victory. Still, for Canadian football, the scene is enormous. A co-host nation, under home attention, with the crowd ready to explode, found the goal at the moment when the match was becoming dangerous. Look, that is how tournament identity gets built. Not through glossy federation campaigns, not through pre-match slogans, and not through another montage of kids in red scarves being asked to carry the emotional budget. It gets built when a player like Eustaquio scores in stoppage time, and the country suddenly has a concrete image to attach to belief. Canada now move forward, South Africa absorb a painful defeat, and the last 16 conversation has a host nation inside it because one late chance finally became one late goal. And once Canada had the result, the reaction became part of the story almost immediately. Because when Alphonso Davies speaks in a moment like this, Canadian football does not hear only a star player, it hears the symbol of the whole rise. Alphonso Davies reacts as Canada make World Cup history by reaching last 16. Davies did not score the winner, and pretending he did would flatten the truth of the match. What matters is that his reaction gives Canada's breakthrough a face that the global audience already recognizes. This is how a national team moment becomes bigger than the 90 minutes without rewriting who actually delivered the goal. Reports say Alphonso Davies reacted emotionally to Canada's triumph, with coverage framing the last 16 run as historic. The key fact stays the same. Canada reached the World Cup last 16 with that late winner against South Africa, and the winner was Stephen Eustaquio. Davies, currently at Bayern Munich, becomes the emotional amplifier, not the scorer. That is an important difference, because football storytelling loves to pull every major moment toward the most famous name in the room. Here is the important bit. Davies is the player many casual viewers connect with Canada first. His reaction travels fast because fans see him as the proof that the country's football ceiling has changed. When supporters share that reaction, they are not just sharing a clip. They are sharing the idea that Canada are no longer at the World Cup as polite guests. They have a place in the knockout conversation now, and that is a very different national posture. There is also a useful warning in all of this. The run is not over, and the reporting we have does not say Canada have completed some finished miracle. It says they are in the last 16 after a stoppage-time goal. That is big enough without decorating it with fake certainty. Davies' emotion matters because it captures the scale of the moment, but Canada's next problem is brutally practical. The deeper you go, the less interested opponents become in your national story. Elsewhere, the mood is nothing like celebration. South Korea's tournament has not just ended, it has spilled into resignation, pressure, and demands for answers. South Korea coach quits as president calls for probe after World Cup exit. This is what happens when a World Cup exit becomes more than a bad result. The coach quitting is the visible part, but the probe call points toward a deeper governance crisis. Fans and former players are not just angry about elimination, they are questioning the structure behind it. South Korea were eliminated after missing out on a place among the 8 best third-place teams, and the fallout has escalated quickly. BBC metadata says the coach quit as the president called for a probe into the World Cup loss. That is a major shift in tone. We are no longer only talking about team selection, missed chances, or one ugly night. The story has moved into accountability, federation pressure, and public demands for change after a failed campaign. Put it this way, Missing the cut for the 8 best third-place qualifying spots is the kind of exit that feels especially cruel in an expanded tournament. It is close enough to produce arguments, but final enough to end the dream. That combination is toxic. Supporters can look at the table, the performances, and the decisions, then convince themselves that one better call, one better plan, or one less error could have kept the tournament alive. So let us be clear on this. South Korea did not reach the knockout stage, and the coach should not be framed as still in charge. The current reality is exit, resignation, and pressure from the top for a probe. That is not a routine post-tournament wobble. It is an institutional stress test, and when fans plus former players start demanding reform, the federation is no longer managing disappointment. It is managing distrust. Meanwhile, Brazil are not in crisis, but they are entering a different kind of examination. Against Japan, Carlo Ancelotti's system has to prove it is more than famous shirts arranged nicely on a team sheet. Brazil v Japan preview. Cunha key to Ancelotti's evolving system. The lazy preview is Brazil nostalgia, flair, pressure, yellow shirts, and old ghosts. The real story is tactical, because Matheus Cunha is being framed as a key part of Ancelotti's adaptable structure. Japan are exactly the kind of opponent who can punish a Brazil side if the attacking balance turns into celebrity traffic. Brazil faced Japan in a World Cup 2026 preview context, with the match described as a round of 32 knockout tie. BBC metadata identifies Manchester United striker Matheus Cunha as important to Brazil's adaptable system under Carlo Ancelotti. That is the frame. Not a sentimental Brazil package, not a recycled conversation about the old days, but a current tactical question. How does Ancelotti shape this attack when the margin for adjustment is now a knockout margin? Cunha matters because he can connect phases rather than just wait for service. Brazil have forwards who can attract attention, run at defenders, and turn small spaces into panic. But the structure needs someone who helps the attack breathe. If Cunha is the connector, the presser, or the forward who opens lanes for others, then his role becomes bigger than the goal column. The debate around Ancelotti's use of Brazil's forwards is building because everyone can see the temptation. Stack the famous names, hope the talent solves the system, and pretend the opponent will be respectful enough to cooperate. Japan are not there to admire the badge. They can make games uncomfortable, they can expose poor spacing, and they can turn loose possession into a long evening. Brazil have not already beaten Japan in this tie, and Cunha should not be dragged backward into outdated club context. He is a Manchester United player in the current package. The question is whether Ancelotti's evolving system gives Brazil control, or whether the attack becomes a very expensive queue of players wanting the same spaces. At the same time, Brazil have the one selection question that can bend every tactical discussion around it. Neymar is fit again, Ancelotti has backed him for a bigger role, and suddenly balance becomes the uncomfortable word in the room. Ancelotti backs fit again Neymar for bigger Brazil role against Japan. Neymar is still powerful enough to change the mood of a knockout tie before he even touches the ball. The overhyped part would be pretending fitness automatically means a start, because the reporting does not say that. What matters is whether a bigger Neymar role helps Brazil's rhythm or interrupts a system Ancelotti is still trying to sharpen. The Economic Times metadata says Carlo Ancelotti has backed fit again Neymar for a bigger role in Brazil's round of 32 clash with Japan. That does not mean Neymar is confirmed to start. It means he is available in a more meaningful way, and Ancelotti has opened the door to using him more heavily. Neymar's current club is Santos, and the World Cup context is Brazil against Japan, not a career retrospective detour or an outdated club label. Look, Neymar changes the emotional temperature. Supporters who want magic see him and think the solution has walked back into the room. Supporters worried about balance see him and wonder if the furniture is about to be rearranged 5 minutes before guests arrive. Both reactions make sense. Brazil are in a knockout match, and the opponent is Japan. This is not the place for a ceremonial cameo that exists only because the name is huge. If Neymar plays a bigger role, the role has to connect to the plan. Ancelotti's problem is delicate. A fit-again Neymar can unlock a tight match, draw defenders, slow the tempo when Brazil need control, and create the kind of final third action that makes a tactical board look less important. But if the structure loses its pressing shape or the forwards start orbiting the same zones, Japan will not send a thank you note before countering. Neymar's bigger role is exciting, but it is also a selection risk with a knockout consequence attached. Now to a story with longer-term impact, because the tournament format itself is under scrutiny. The expanded World Cup has given us more teams and more stories, but the drama has not always arrived where FIFA would want it. New World Cup format questioned after group stage offers stories but little jeopardy. Expansion is easy to sell when underdog stories appear on screen. The uncomfortable question is whether the group stage lost too much jeopardy while trying to include more of the world. A 48-team tournament feeding a 32-team knockout stage can create opportunity, but it can also make early jeopardy feel strangely diluted. BBC coverage has framed the debate around whether the new World Cup group stage format worked, citing strong stories but limited jeopardy. The structure is clear. 48 teams expanded into a 32-team knockout stage. That means more nations, more fan bases, more national moments, and more matches with huge emotional value for countries that might previously have been outside the tournament. None of that should be dismissed. Football's global reach is not a slogan when new teams actually get to play on the biggest stage. But here is the important bit. More stories do not automatically mean better competitive tension. If too many teams can survive the group stage, the early phase can start to feel like a long sorting process rather than a dangerous tournament. Supporters are split for a reason. One side loves the underdog journeys and the fresh flags. The other side misses the sharper edge where every group match felt like it could throw a giant into the street without a polite warning. So let us be clear on this. FIFA has not abandoned the format based on the reporting in this package, and this is not only a scheduling issue, it is a football integrity argument. How much jeopardy should a World Cup group stage have? How many second chances are too many? The expanded format has produced stories, yes, but the criticism is that the tournament may be asking viewers to wait too long before the trapdoor really opens. The situation is becoming more complex away from the bracket too. In Dallas, heat is not background weather, it is now part of the player welfare argument around this World Cup. Dallas World Cup heat concerns grow as pavement temperatures exceed forecasts. Heat stories can sound abstract until the numbers stop sounding normal. A 90-degree forecast against 120-degree pavement conditions is not just uncomfortable, it changes how bodies recover, run, and survive matchday environments. Hydration breaks may protect players, but the controversy shows people are not convinced tournament operations have kept pace with North American summer conditions. The Star metadata reports a Dallas heat trap story where forecasts said 90 degrees while pavement reached 120. DW metadata says hydration breaks have become a major World Cup controversy tied to summer heat and player protection. That is the key framing. This is not only about fans feeling sweaty on the walk to the stadium, it is about tournament operations, player welfare, scheduling pressure, and whether the conditions around matches are being managed with enough realism. Look, football loves to pretend discomfort is character building until the science walks in and ruins the macho speech. Pavement at 120 degrees is not a vibes problem. It affects the air around venues, the movement of supporters, the load on staff, and the conditions players have to prepare in before, during, and after matches. Hydration breaks exist because summer heat can be dangerous. The argument is about whether those measures are enough, and whether the tournament calendar is asking too much from the people on the pitch. No official rule change should be claimed unless it is confirmed, and the issue should not be reduced to fan comfort. The sharper question is operational. If North American summer heat is predictable, are the cooling measures, kickoff plans, medical protocols, and venue logistics strong enough for a World Cup? When a forecast says 90 and pavement is being reported at 120, the tournament cannot hide behind the weather app. That is not the only bracket story building today. Australia's path has been mapped after late drama, and of course the possible England subplot has already started doing laps around social media. Socceroos World Cup path mapped after 96-minute drama. Bracket projections are useful, but they are also dangerous when fans start treating them like results. Australia's route is now part of the live World Cup conversation because 96-minute drama helps shape what comes next. The England angle is spicy, but it should stay where the reporting places it, a possible future meeting, not a confirmed next match. Fox Sports metadata says Australia's full World Cup path was laid out after 96-minute drama, including when they could face England. That last bit is the headline magnet because nothing gets a football public talking faster than a possible Australia-England World Cup collision. But this is not the same as a confirmed next match. The reporting points to a possible future meeting inside a mapped route, and that distinction matters before everyone starts printing imaginary tickets. The Socceroos story is really about expectation. Once a bracket opens up, fans stop thinking in single matches and start looking down the road. Who is waiting? Who could fall? Which giant might be avoided? Which rival might appear at exactly the worst possible time? It is fun, but it can also become a trap. A team can lose focus on the immediate hurdle while the fan base is already arguing about a game that may never happen. Australia's supporters are already debating the England possibility because, of course they are. It has history, noise, and just enough chaos to make every pub conversation louder than it needs to be. But the concrete fact is simpler. Late drama in the 96th minute helped shape Australia's mapped path, and projections are not fixed results. The bracket can tempt you into looking ahead, but the next match still gets to ruin the spreadsheet. In another development, Saudi Arabia's exit has produced a leadership consequence above the touchline. This is not a coaching change story, it is a federation presidency story. Saudi Federation President Al-Misahal stands down after World Cup exit. World Cup failure does not always stop with the manager or the players. Al-Misahal standing down shows how tournament disappointment can travel into federation leadership. The important distinction is his role federation president, not national team coach. Saudi Federation President Al-Misahal has stood down after Saudi Arabia's World Cup exit, according to the metadata in the story package. That is the central fact. Saudi Arabia are not still being framed as alive in the tournament here, and the resignation should not be confused with a national team coach leaving the job. This is federation-level fallout, which tells you how seriously the exit has landed. Supporters are treating the resignation as proof that the consequences are institutional, not just sporting. That is often how World Cup disappointment works when a country has invested heavily in status, preparation, and ambition. A bad campaign is not only a bad campaign, it becomes a mirror held up to planning, governance, and the promises made before the tournament. Someone usually has to carry the public weight, and in this case the Federation presidency is the place where the pressure has shown. There is a broader pattern forming across this World Cup. South Korea have a coach quitting and a probe call after elimination. Saudi Arabia now have Al Misahal stepping down after their exit. When expanded tournaments create more pathways, they also create more ways for federations to be judged. Missing the moment is harder to excuse when the format has supposedly opened more doors. Finally, a World Cup injury has now reached the club calendar, and Manchester United are the club feeling it. Manuel Ugarte's knee problem is not just Uruguay's tournament pain, it is a midfield planning issue at Old Trafford. Manchester United's Manuel Ugarte set for spell-out with knee ligament injury. Tournament injuries are where national pride and club reality collide hardest. Ugarte suffered the injury during Uruguay's World Cup defeat by Spain, and Manchester United have confirmed knee ligament damage. The key is not guessing a return date. The key is recognizing that United's midfield depth has taken a serious hit. BBC metadata says Manchester United confirmed Manuel Ugarte suffered knee ligament damage during Uruguay's World Cup defeat by Spain. The Guardian metadata says he is set for a spell on the sidelines. That is the current reality. Ugarte is a Manchester United player, not a PSG player in this context, and there should be no invented return date unless the club states one clearly. Knee ligament damage is serious enough without adding fake medical prophecy. The World Cup angle matters because clubs live with the consequences after national teams leave the stage. Uruguay's defeat by Spain already carried tournament weight, but for United, the aftermath is about availability, midfield depth, and how the squad absorbs a player missing time. United fans are worried for a reason. Midfield injuries do not just remove one name from the team sheet, they change rotations, pressing options, defensive security, and the manager's ability to protect certain players from being overused. BBC describes this type of injury as among the most serious a footballer can face, and that is why the tone has to stay careful. No dramatic countdown, no miracle timeline, no pretending this is a routine knock. Ugarte is set for a spell out, United must plan without certainty, and Uruguay's World Cup damage now stretches beyond the final whistle of the Spain match. That is the World Cup right now. Canada turning stoppage time into history. Brazil trying to balance Neymar, Cunha, and Ancelotti's structure. South Korea and Saudi Arabia facing fallout. Australia staring at a tempting bracket. And the tournament itself being questioned over format, heat, and injuries. The drama is not only who wins the next match, it is who survives the consequences around it. Tablo Sports will keep tracking the results, the pressure, and the stories that look shiny until the receipt arrives.